Hello and welcome back to my tutorial on how to build an LED wire tree. This is the second part, and today I'm going to cover all the materials and tools that you will need. And I've got everything laid out in front of me. Well, at least I hope I have everything. So I think we'll start with the tools, and of course you need your trusty glue gun. This is most essential in most of my projects. So let us put this out of the way for the moment. We will need a soldering iron. Now this is a kind of fancy one with adjustable temperature and everything. And well, this is a really good investment. You can do with a cheap one, but you might get some weak connections. And yeah, but for a start you can do with a cheap soldering iron. Of course you need solder to go with it, and I'm using silver-based solder, but yeah, with silver-based solder you have to go with a little bit higher temperatures, so this will also make your job a bit harder. And as a beginner I would recommend starting with lead-based solder, but make sure you wash your hands because it's a bit poisonous. Okay, this is that. Then we're gonna need some cutters, some small pliers, gonna need a small screwdriver. This is for later when we put the wires on it, so we can use this as to unwind the wires really easily. And gonna need a knife to scrape off the lacquer from these wires. Of course we need some way to test our LEDs, and I will probably do that with a multimeter. And the way you do this, well, some multimeters already have a LED testing port, but this one does not. So I'm gonna set it to diode mode, and let me just show you how this works. So if I put it on the LED here, yeah, you can see it lights up. And with some multimeters this doesn't work because they don't put out enough voltage, but with this one it does. So this is good. And if you don't have a multimeter, that's fine. I can show you how to make a little LED tester. Okay, and something very handy is one of these things where you can clamp the LEDs in. And well, it's called a third hand in German, but I don't know what it's called in English. So yeah, probably the same. And you don't need a fancy one with a light and everything. Just one of these alligator clamps is really enough. Okay. Then we will need a base for our project. Now you can buy a wooden box. They come in lots of different sizes, like treasure chests or square ones or round ones. And you can buy these in arts and craft shops. And yeah, you can use these. Funny thing, always when I order at the arts and craft shops, they always call me Mrs. I don't know what that's about. Probably not a lot of men ordering at these shops. So we could use this, but this time I want to use this box here. This is a watch case I found very cheaply on Amazon, and I bought 3 of these because I wanted to save on shipping. They were so cheap. And I ripped out all the holders for the watches, and yeah, the LED tree will go on top here. We'll have all the wiring inside, and well, there's plenty of room. If you use a box that is as small as this one, then it will be a bit fiddly with the wiring, but you can manage this. You might just want to use a bit less LEDs to make it easier. Okay, that's for the box. Yeah, what's next? We need a power supply. As I mentioned in the first video, I want to make this with a power supply. This is an adjustable power supply, so we can adjust the brightness of the LED tree. It goes up to 12 volts and it puts out 300 milliamps, which is plenty enough. The tree will probably only use 100 milliamps. So, but this is the smallest that I could find. And what you need to look out for in these power supplies, if you get a bad one, it might put out a lot of whining on the lower voltages, so very irritating noise. And also these are switching power supplies, so what that means is that it quickly turns the LED on and off to get the power on and off to get to the desired voltage. And when this frequency is very low, then you can see it. Well, the LED is always blinking, but if the frequency is high enough, you won't notice it. So these are the two things you need to look out for. And yeah, maybe by exactly this one, it puts out a little bit of whining, but it's okay, and the frequency is also good. Yeah, that's the power supply. Okay, what do we need next? We need, of course, the wires to build the LED tree out of. This is single strand copper wire with lacquer on it. And of course you need a single stranded wire, because as you see, you can bend this in any shape you like and it will stay in this shape. Whereas with the multiple stranded wire, you can bend it, but it will snap back. So this is multiple strands here. And we're going to use this for the power distribution down in the base. Okay, so this lacquer wire, you can also buy at arts and craft shops. And they are usually used for tying things together, like flowers and such. And yeah, for our project, we need them to be insulating. So this is not really something that people usually look out for in these wires. So we can test if this is working with our trusty multimeter. Set it to ohm settings and just put it right across this coil here. And as you can see, there's no reading showing up on the multimeter, and this is good. It's well insulated. I've bought wires like this in gold and silver color, and they are not insulating. So maybe, yeah, they don't really have lacquer on it. It's just the wire that has this color. So, but they sold them as lacquer wire nonetheless. So yeah, this is something you need to watch out for. Then we're gonna need LEDs, of course. And for this project, I'm gonna use cold white diffuse LEDs. As I said, you can use any color you want. I like to use the diffuse LEDs because they don't put out a spot of light. Instead, they look like they're glowing, and I think this looks much nicer. And you can see that on the tree I already made. These are also, wait, let me just adjust the camera a bit. These are also diffuse LEDs, and you can see that the LEDs are lighting up nicely and not just shining a spot somewhere. Okay. And well, I use 3mm LEDs, but of course you can use any size LED you want. But I think it looks nice with the really small LEDs, and I think you can even find smaller LEDs now these days. Okay, so what is interesting about the LEDs is the voltage that they need, because this will determine how we have to wire them up. So we have a 12-volt power supply, and each LED needs 3 volts. So we can put 3 LEDs in series. And if you If you buy blue LEDs, it will be roughly the same. I think green ones are a bit lower on voltage and red ones are only about 1.5 volts. So with red ones you can put 6 or 7 in series. And yeah, that's all the difference. Now, there are LEDs now that have a circuit inside, so they will flicker or change their color. And these LEDs, well, you can't wire them up in series. You have to wire up each LED individually. And well, this will need a lot of space in your base of the tree and will be a lot more work. So you might consider if you want to do that. Just a quick interlude here, because I forgot to mention something about the LEDs. It is important that you buy only a single batch of LEDs, because if you have different batches of LEDs, even if it's exactly the same type of LED, then some of them might be brighter than others, and also the color might be off a bit. So if you want your LED tree to look uniformly, then only buy a single batch. And you can see that I have a pack of 100 LEDs here, and it's very important to have some spares, because you will most likely destroy some while you solder them. Okay. Then to insulate the LEDs from one another, I'm going to use shrink tube. And yeah, normally I use clear one, but I ran out, so I'm going to use black one. And of course you need a lighter to shrink this. Okay. Now, to wire everything up down in the base, you're gonna need wires, and I already showed you these ones. This is not really a critical part. You can use old wires you salvaged from something. And yeah, multi-stranded is nice because they are flexible. The size doesn't really matter too much because the current we are gonna run is very low. Then I have this little fuse holder. You can see there's a fuse inside, and this is also not really necessary, I guess, but I think it's just good practice to put a fuse on something you're building yourself. Then also to connect the power supply to the base, I'm going to use a socket like this, and it fits to one of these little plugs that come with the power supply. So this is very nice. And this one is made of plastic, you see, so it's insulated. If you buy one made of metal, then it will be contacted to the outside of the plug. So if you want to use a base made out of metal, you need to watch out for this a bit. Probably better to buy one made of plastic. Then we're gonna need resistors to limit the current. These are 390 ohm that I'm using, and well, it all depends on what color of LED you're using and what brightness you want your tree to be, but I will cover this a bit more in the wiring up part of the video. So these are the resistors. Then to wire everything together, I'm using a circuit board, and this has a pattern where 3 holes are connected together, and I really like this pattern for the LED trees, but I think you can make any pattern you want work. Yeah, but I think this one works nicely. So this circuit board is going to go inside the base like this. We're going to do all the wiring here, and then we're going to glue it to the top, and that will leave some space down inside the base where you can put small items if you want to. And what I have forgotten to put on the table here is a drill, just to make holes into the base. So you're gonna want to put holes in the top for the wires to go through, and also maybe in the back here a hole for this socket. And I think the black on black will look quite nice here. And for the wires, I'm probably going to use green and black wires. And yeah, on this tree here, this is green wires, and it comes out really dark, so it's almost looks black. Well, I'm using 2 colors of wires, because then I can use one color on the positive pin of the diode and one on the negative pin, and this will make my wiring up job much easier. You see, this one here is with all green wires, and this was really difficult to find the right wire every time. And also you can see that when you have a whole spool of this wire, then you can see the color very well, but when you have just one single wire, you can hardly see the color at all. So if you're going to use dark blue and black, then this will also be difficult to see the colors of the wires. Okay, I think this concludes the video. In the next part, I will show you how to prepare the wires, and probably start with soldering the LEDs to them. So stay tuned for the next episode, and if you like my work, then please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.